Oracle for Startups on day 2 of Startup Grind Global. I'm Whitney Dermick, and my guest is Patricia Garcia, a student founder and the winner of the Oracle for Startups on Next Gen HQ Challenge. Patricia, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So you have an illustrious title and story. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
My name is Patricia Garcia. I am currently a graduate student at the University of Southern California, where I'm getting my master's in product development engineering. I am originally from Miami, Florida, and during my time in undergrad back home in Miami, I started working on my startup, my company, and I've continued to work on that now while as a grad student at USC.
Great. And we are connected because you did win the Oracle for Startups and Next Gen HQ Challenge. Tell me about your winning idea.
Right. So Uni Thrift is a gamified peer-to-peer platform for students to buy and sell collegiate gear and leverage their campus community. So say you're a recent grad of UCLA, have UCLA swag you won't be wearing after you graduate. Because say you're moving across the country, you don't have that space. The idea is you can sell it to an incoming student who can't afford to pay the $70 for that sweatshirt at the bookstore, but still wants to rep their institution of higher education. So we like to say our 3 main pillars are focused on accessibility, sustainability, and community, and we're embracing these 3 features these 3 different pillars through features on our platform.
And is your 4th pillar good fashion? Because people can rock the vintage styles of UCLA gear?
Oh, sure, definitely. I think we're seeing a lot more of that now. This whole vintage sector is popping right now, especially amongst Gen Z, which is our target audience. So we do see a lot of these vintage items getting listed on our platform, which just recently launched on iOS and Android.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's an appetite for the vintage feel?
That's a great question. Maybe it's a longing for how things were in the past. So
Sure.
I don't know. I think UCLA, it's a school that has so much history. For example, even USC being around for hundreds of thousands of years, I think there's some nostalgia attached to it where, say, maybe a more school that's younger doesn't have that, but if you can grab that vintage piece, why not wear it? I think not only is it stylish, but it shows, hey, I have this one-of-a-kind piece that maybe you don't have.
Right. Some things are timeless.
Right.
And then bringing that in with technology, which is not timeless, which is continuing to get better and better.
Sure.
It's a really cool mashup. So tell me what happened when you won the challenge.
Yeah. So I got the call from Chris, or the email from Chris from Next Gen when I was in Universal at Hollywood Studios. I'd never been before, and I remember being in line to get on a ride. I was with some other friends from USC, and I got the email and I was showing them, and everyone was so happy for me. It was great. I hadn't been back to the Bay in some time. I did spend a summer here at Berkeley, but I hadn't been back since the pandemic. This is my first time coming back out here to San Francisco, and I didn't watch a Golden State Warriors game before, so watching Steph Curry play and being there with everyone from Oracle and being in the ambiance, I think now, some time after the pandemic was really nice.
Right. So you got to come up to the Bay Area and watch a Warriors game from the Oracle suite with a bunch of executives.
Right.
What was that experience like? Was it intimidating or was it cool?
It was cool. I think, obviously I'm no Oracle executive, but as a student founder, it felt like everyone was so interested in helping out and learning what I was working on. It didn't feel like these people are in these high positions. They're just here to want to help me out. So they spoke about all the offerings that the Oracle for Startups has and how I can leverage that for my, right now, pretty small company, but as we continue to grow, whether it's help with marketing or the cloud, everyone was super helpful, from people at Oracle to Dylan and the Next Gen HQ team.
Great. And so, as a student founder, what obstacles have you encountered? Are there any pivots that you've had to make?
Yeah. So as a student founder, as you can imagine, access to capital is a little scarce. So when you're so worried about, putting food on the table, paying for tuition, these are, I guess, expenses that you're worried about. So even having to think about raising capital for something that is just an idea was a bit of a struggle. I like to say myself as a Latina individual, as an underrepresented minority, a lot of, I guess, founders depend on raising a friends and family around. But that is not the case for me when my family back home is more focused on paying bills and putting food on the table. So I've had to hustle a lot, I like to say. So I've funded my venture thus far from pitch competition wins. So as a matter of fact, my flight back tomorrow, I just had to change it because I'm a finalist in the new venture seed competition at USC. And I'm unable to do it remote. They want me to be in person. So I just had to change my flight last minute to be back in time for that. And then we just booked another flight for 2 weeks from now to UC Davis for their pitch competition. So it's always a lot going on.
Yep.
But as people like to tell me, I thrive in this environment. So it can be challenging, it can be tiring, but it's what I have to do, and I enjoy it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about more of that, your experience as a student founder and how the product has evolved from an idea to something more tangible. But first I want to ask, how do you take care of yourself? Like, how do you make sure that you're staying happy, healthy, able to catch these flights, show up on stage, keep hustling in the name of your company?
I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot. So, now being in LA, I don't have a car out there, so I definitely take advantage of, being out in LA. I'm not much of a hiker, but if I know, I need to go out and get some fresh air, I will go and do it. Whether that means taking a bus for 2 hours to get to, the Hollywood Hills to go for the hike, I'll do it. So I like to do that a lot. When I'm back home in Miami, I do enjoy spending time with my dog and taking him out. He's a wiener dog. His name is Slinky. After Toy Story.
Sure.
So I enjoy doing a lot of that. I can tell you, and I was telling my director here, who's representing the Grive Centers, that April is such a hectic month. I think for the startup world, it's just back to back to back. Maybe I won't be practicing too much self-care this month, but next month in May, I'll take a bit of a break.
Sure, sunshine, fresh air, and dogs.
Yes.
That's self-care right there.
Yes.
So to my original question, tell me about the evolution of Uni Thrift from idea to where we are today.
Yeah. So my startup story into becoming an entrepreneur, I think, is a unique story. So when I was an undergrad, I thought I was going to get a PhD in mechanical engineering. And to be a competitive PhD applicant, you need to have research experience. And where I went for undergrad wasn't exactly offering those opportunities, so I've always been someone the opportunity is not there for me, I'll go out and make it, or I'll go out and look for it. So I spent every summer while I was an undergrad not in Miami. So I spent one summer at the University of Miami working in a lab there. The summer after that at Worcester Polytechnic in another lab. Then I spent some time at MIT and then at Berkeley. And all these were for the sole purpose of making myself a better PhD applicant. And then that summer at Berkeley was when I realized, I'm here in the Bay. This is where these startup dreams come true. So let me just, start doing some research and exploring into what entrepreneurship looks like. And I had realized by that point, having been across the nation at all these different schools, that the one thing I noticed that they all had in common was these $70 sweatshirts at the bookstore. And I wanted to bring a piece of these different schools back home with me, but I wasn't able to afford that. That's like 7 meals right there. So I started iterating, reaching out to people back at my home institution, and the idea came to me I had all these items in my closet back home in Miami of schools I wasn't attending, and it's kind of frowned upon, I like to think, to wear another school's swag to your school.
Sure.
So I created an Instagram page, posted it on there, and started growing the following because I wanted more money to buy stuff for my school specifically. And people started following, and the items started to sell almost instantly. And at some point during that time, this was pre-pandemic, someone reached out to me and asked, can I list my stuff on this Instagram page because you've amassed a following? And I told them at the time, there was way too much going on right now. I do not have the time for that. But then came March 11th, 2020, and we were all stuck at home, and I found myself with a little more time on my hands because of the pandemic, and I reached back out to that individual and I told him, I have some extra time on my hands, so let's send your items in and I'll list them. And then people were sending in items from all over the country. And the page started to grow and grow, and that's when I realized that if I wanted to scale this beyond an Instagram page, I needed to incorporate some new type of technology because the demand was surpassing my capabilities as a solopreneur on the back end. This, in conjunction with all the customer discovery and putting out surveys and talking to customers, led me to the point I am now with I have a platform now which will allow me to scale what I was doing on the back end individually on Instagram to a platform where I don't have to be the middle person anymore. People can upload, shop, connect with others on their campus, all on this platform that I just have to, update the software every so often, but I can manage everything on the back end.
Yeah, so it's scaling.
Yeah.
That's awesome. If people want to learn more about Uni Thrift, where should they go?
Yeah, so www.unithrifts.com. We're live there, and we just recently launched on iOS and Android, Uni Thrifts, and all our social media but Instagram is Uni Thrifts. Our Instagram handle is unithrifts.app.
Great.
I'd love to chat. Feel free to follow, and I think ultimately I'd like to say here at Uni Thrifts, our focus is on creating these more inclusive and sustainable institutions of higher education. If anyone out there is interested at all in sustainability or making just accessibility on college campuses more accessible or better places, I'd love to chat.
Cool. Love that. Final question, hot take, which university has the best style?
The University of Southern California, of course.
There you go. Shout out. Patricia, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, to learn more about Oracle for Startups, if you are a solopreneur, a startup, a student founder, please check us out at oracle.com/startup.